week. I would like to think if she had asked me, I'd have told her to sell earlier before the market had crashed. But the idea that if a spouse sells something, it must have been the husband's decision just kind of bothers me. Because there are a whole lot of women who know more than their husbands do about finances. But here, this stuff has been repeated over and over and over again about insider trading. That's how that stuff gets going. And it's troublesome, you know, because people believe this without knowing the facts at hand. Now, earmarks. Yeah, I make earmarks. I'd bring earmarks back. I'd call them under a different name because they, people have such a negative attitude about them. The Woodrow Wilson Bridge was an earmark. It would still be in the condition today that it was in 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And all that pollution would have been clouding the air, and people trying to cross the bridge would have been waiting for more than an hour. Now, I know there are people in the southern part of Old Town who wish that it hadn't been constructed, and it was disruptive when it was being constructed. I've done everything I could, including earmarks, to take care of Jones Point so that it's the kind of recreational and open space area they want. But it was attributed to me because it was in my congressional district. But I worked with John Warner, who's a close friend today. I could always call John. Back in the old days, when Democrats and Republicans would work together, and Tom Davis and Frank Wolf and I, the four of us met constantly. And we got that money. And I'm proud of it. It's not easy to get an earmark. You got to explain it, why it's important. Then you got to get it through subcommittee, then through full committee, then onto the House floor, and you invariably get challenged. Then you got to get it through the Senate. Now, no one's going to defend earmarks, but I will. Every year, I got an earmark to maintain the GW Parkway because it is so heavily used. It deteriorates. And the Park Service has all kinds of projects that it has to spend money on. But I know how much this parkway is used, better than even, well, certainly better than my colleagues, and better than some of the people who work in the Park Service. And they work with me. And sure enough, we got that all the way now, well, because I'm the ranking member on Interior and the Environment, they keep the money coming, but they wouldn't have if I wasn't in that position. But that was an earmark. 4 Mile Run was an earmark. The Corps of Engineers was going to turn it into a concrete drainage ditch because that's what the law said. That's all the law said. It had to allow this certain amount of flow. And so what we did through an earmark was to say we want to put down the natural vegetation that used to exist there. We put it in on the other side of Route 1 there. You can see it down by Cora Kelly School, all that wetlands. And all through Arlington. If you look at Shirlington, you'll see this parkway. They were going to dredge it all up, put down concrete. And I didn't let them. But I could only stop them by doing an earmark because it's specific to a certain area. And that's a nice place to walk along 4 Mile Run or to bike. If you don't do it, you ought to. It's an enhancement of our quality of life. And every time I see it and walk along it, a bicycle, I'm proud of that. That's what I do, is to serve this district. And I've done it through what they call earmarks. They're specific projects that you have to fight for, you have to argue for. And I'm proud that I've successfully delivered them. And I could give you another 50 or 60 earmarks, all the contiguous bike trails, earmarks. The studies for transit along Potomac Yard that will eventually enable us to have transit, a metro station. It all requires planning and engineering and all of that, and they won't do it unless you earmark the money. And we earmark the money. Money through to connect Columbia Pike with bus rapid transit. I won't spend the whole time. I can give you a long list of things that we've done, and you decide whether they were appropriate things to do or not. I know they were, as I know this community. Devoted most of my adult life to this community. And I'm going to do everything possible. I know you're taking...